Have you ever walked into an Italian bank with your passport thinking it would take 15 minutes and walked out an hour later without an account, but with a list of 5 documents you didn't even know existed? You're not alone. And no, you're not being punished. Welcome back to the 5 things people never tell you about working with Italians. I'm Eleanor, and this is episode 3 in our special series on Precisione, the Italian art of getting things exactly right. So far we've seen how Precisione shows up in rituals, meals and relationships, but what happens when that same commitment to doing things properly meets paperwork and contracts and official systems? To outsiders, Italian bureaucracy can feel painfully complicated, but what if it's not just red tape? What if all that complexity is actually a form of protection? Today's episode is all about how Precisione operates beneath the surface, in contracts, in banks, in systems, and why in Italy getting it exactly right is as much about caring as it is about survival. Buying property in Italy, for example, is a monumental exercise in precision. I remember it vividly. The process stretched out over months, involving countless documents, certifications, verifications, and it all culminated in a ceremony at the notary's office where the notaio solemnly read every clause of the contract out loud, corrected a minor typo, insisted on a fresh printout, and after I'd formally agreed to it all, stamped it with a heavy medieval-looking seal. I thought she might ask me to swear loyalty to the Republic of Italy, just to be sure. Only after that did they hand over the keys, along with an additional €2,000 bill for the ritual. It felt like receiving a knighthood. It took 2 hours. At the time, I remember thinking, why do they have to make such a fuss about everything? And then it hit me. Making a fuss is another one of those untranslatable ideas. In English, making a fuss usually sounds negative, overreacting, being dramatic, drawing attention unnecessarily. But in Italian culture, if you're not making a fuss, are you even paying attention? Making a fuss is how you show care. Somewhere between the second signature and the third round of stamping, I realised this wasn't inefficiency, it was love. It's how you underline that something matters. In Italy, fussing isn't wasting time. It's investing in a transaction with attention, respect and meaning. In Britain, making a fuss is a national fear. In Italy, it's a national sport. Here's another example. Want to try opening a company in Italy? Fun fact, in the UK you can set up a company with £12 and an internet connection in less than 1 hour. In Italy, you open a company with €3,000, 3 witnesses and a notary who behaves like he's about to marry you to the business. And it takes 2 to 4 weeks. In Britain, starting a company feels like signing up for a gym membership. In Italy, it feels like founding a minor republic. It can feel exhausting to those of us from more easygoing systems. But here's the thing. Nobody can afford to be sloppy in Italy. Shortcuts aren't just risky, they're dangerous. If you're working with Italian suppliers, lawyers or partners and wondering why nothing ever seems simple, this is why. You're not doing it wrong, you're just in a culture where right means very right. I once coached an American COO who was baffled by the layers of documentation required to finalize a local partnership in Rome. Once he understood that every document was a form of trust, not delay, he stopped resisting and started building real alignment. And if you think property is complicated, try opening a bank account. When I first moved to Italy, I thought I'd walk in with my passport and leave an hour later with a bank card. Instead, it took 5 visits. Every time there was another document I needed. A certificate of residence, my permit to stay in Italy, tax code, work contracts, signature verification, passport, and each had to be perfect with the correct stamp, the right certification, in the right format. By the 5th visit, I half expected them to ask for a blood sample and a letter of recommendation from my primary school teacher. At first, it felt maddening, but eventually I realised the system is built to demand precision because precision protects you. Italians aren't pedantic for the sake of it. They're meticulous because, in their experience, shortcuts can cause real damage. This links to another huge part of Italian life, bureaucracy. Businesses here succeed or fail based on the quality of the tax advisors, accountants, and lawyers supporting them. Nobody can afford to be sloppy here. Precision in legal and financial matters isn't optional, it's survival. For many expats dealing with Italian bureaucracy, getting visas, registering for healthcare, navigating taxes is a major source of stress. It feels endless and overwhelming. And here's something important to understand. Italians are stressed by it too. They don't love their bureaucracy any more than you do. But over time, a cultural response has evolved. Precisione is how you survive in a system where small mistakes can have big consequences. And if you're wondering why bureaucracy is so deeply rooted in Italy, you need to understand their history. For centuries, the Italian peninsula wasn't a unified nation. It was a mosaic of city-states and small kingdoms, often ruled by foreign empires. The Ostrogoths, Byzantines, Lombards, Franks, Spanish, French, Austrians, and of course the Papal States. Each new regime brought its own laws, taxes, and bureaucratic structures. Italians learned not just to live with these systems, but to master them, navigating contradictions, protecting themselves through detailed documentation, and becoming experts at ensuring that agreements were formal, precise, and defensible. And it goes even deeper than that. Italy is the birthplace of modern banking and accounting. Double-entry bookkeeping was developed in the 15th century by Luca Pacioli, a Tuscan mathematician and Franciscan friar who laid out the system still used around the world today. In fact, Italy is also home to the world's oldest bank, still in operation, Banca Monte dei Paschi di Siena, founded in 1472. That's over 550 years of continuous documented financial activity. A pretty strong testament to the Italian love of records, rituals, and doing things properly. An Italian colleague once told me, the reason we went off colonizing new worlds during the Renaissance is because we were too busy financing it. Turns out, while everyone else was sailing west, the Italians were balancing the books. They weren't empire building, they were diversifying their portfolios. Let the explorers get scurvy, we'll take care of the spreadsheets. And when you look at the meticulous attention to contracts, accounting, legal structures, and tax codes in modern Italian life, you can still feel that legacy. In Italy, precisione is not a cultural quirk, it's foundational. It's the infrastructure beneath the flair. And when you realize Italy invented not just beauty but bookkeeping, suddenly all the stamp signatures and solemn notaries make perfect sense. So here are the takeaways. Precisione in Italy is a survival strategy rooted in history, not a bureaucratic obsession. It helps protect individuals, agreements, and a dignity in a complex system. In business, legal, and financial matters, doing things properly is essential, not optional. In the final episode, we'll return to daily life, design, coffee, wardrobes, even small cars, to explore how Precisione shows up in the little things, because in Italy, even the smallest things deserve to be done beautifully and properly. If you're working across cultures and Italy is part of your world, I help professionals navigate the complexity with less stress and more clarity. Because when you misread the systems, it costs time, money, and trust. But when you understand why it works this way, you work better, faster, and with much less frustration. Let's connect. Details in my profile. Buona giornata.